What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Here we are, more 1911s. We can't get away from them. But do you want to? Is that what you really want, is to stop talking about 1911s? Me neither. Screw that. Welcome back, everybody. This one is exciting. This is a cool gun that I just got in, and I have not taken it apart. Just a couple dry fires, and that's it. And so we're going to have another sort of fresh reaction to a new gun on the bench. This is a Colt 1991. Definitely used, carried, dropped. Like, this girl's got some wear. This one is made in 2000. And, yeah, solid pistol. So my purpose in buying this one is manyfold. One is I need a proper, like, beater work gun. Something to throw on the hip and all that, because I've beautified and prettied up all my 1911 so much to where I don't really want to do that. So I needed one in stock that's like kind of a beater. Now I've got my Springfield, and there's a lot to choose from, but listen, we're just going through excuses to buy another gun. Okay, you guys know the drill. That's all we're doing here. So just play along. The bigger reason, though, is we're going to be doing an analysis on Colts through the years. And at this point, I have several Colts, one more on the way after this one. So this will be the third Colt purchase in a very short time, a couple weeks. And we're going to do an analysis on Colt just to look like through the years, how did they change? What went wrong? Are the new ones as good as the old ones? And we're going to be answering some of those questions. And this is going to be a part of that conversation. Now, the Colt 1991 has a good reputation for being a solid sort of just go-to-war gun. It's a beater gun. They're not trash. It's a good Colt, but they are, just a good shooter. They're a working pistol. And, a lot of people don't care for them as much because they're Series 80. But, I made a video talking about, 1911 Series 70s and Series 80s and all that. And in that video, I said, look, I don't prefer Series 80s either. However, when you actually get down to it, where do you live? You live past the Series 80 deactivation, right? So once I pass that Series 80 mechanism, now I'm at the wall, and that's where I live. I live in the break and in the reset. So the Series 80 system becomes pretty much transparent, and it doesn't really matter. And then there's the issue of there's a lot of different types of Series 80 systems, and some of them are really well executed. Some of them are very, very poorly executed. This one is excellent. It's also very cleverly hidden behind the signature loosey-goosey Colt trigger shoe. This thing is nice and sloppy, so when you're going to pull the trigger, you don't even feel the Series 80 system because the trigger is hiding it underneath its slop. So that's why I went with this one. It doesn't really matter to me, and this one really fit the bill for what I was going after. What I wanted is I can't do another blued gun. I'm at a point now where the majority of my 1911s are blued, which is cool, but I will remind everyone I'm in Florida. I can't carry blued guns. I will destroy them in exactly one day. So I need something that's going to be a little bit more robust against rust and corrosion and all that stuff. So enter the 1991. Now, this individual pistol is really solid. It's got some dings, some interesting wear patterns here. And these are indicative of outside the waistband carry to me. You see right side wear where it's clearly been banged on something for some years. You see some banging on the tang of the grip safety, on the hammer, the sights. So that's actually encouraging to me. This is a good thing. This tells me somebody trusted this with their life. On a feel level, the gun feels really solid. Slide frame fit is, typical GI, a little bit loose, not terrible. Barrel fit is actually very, very solid. Interestingly, this one also has a crown job. I do not believe that was a factory option in these 91s. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but this clearly has a pretty nice crown job. So this pistol is telegraphing to me that somebody trusted this with their life. And those are some of the best guns, right? It's also nice when you don't get a perfectly mint pistol, because then you have to be the one to like break the seal and put the first scratch and dent in it. When you get one like this, well, we've already crossed that boundary, right? So now I can just enjoy the gun and not worry about that. Moving right along, the thumb safety feels great. Nothing needed there. Nice and positive. Tiny bit of over travel, but pretty typical on a GI gun. Grip safety, super sloppy floppy. So we're going to have to adjust that leaf spring a little bit, maybe put a new one in. Trigger is a long trigger shoe, and it's a very old school trigger shoe. Nowadays, the profile on triggers is a lot more flat, even though they're curved. This has a very pre-war profile. You can see the shoe tapers down as it gets to the nose. You have a much deeper finger groove, and it is smooth overall, which I like. This is, of all the triggers, my favorite is a pre-war trigger. A little bit of take-up. Wall, push, push, push. Zero creep with a round roll-off, not a super crisp let-off. Good trigger. So we're going to inspect that, make sure it's safe and everything, because you got to be careful with a round roll-off sometimes. Sights are the, typical, elevated, widened GI sights, blacked out, nothing special. We're going to leave those on there as long as they don't fall out. Mainspring housing is flat, and it is a serrated flat mainspring housing. Now, this, to me, looks potentially to be a replacement. And it also, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, it is loosely fit in the frame. So, very likely, I'm going to fit an Ed Brown to go in there. I don't like the way this looks or feels or anything. It's off. Grips are your sort of standard Colt double diamond, rosewood red grips. They look okay. I'm not sure if I'll keep those on there, but we'll see. So that's it. Pretty standard 1911. So it also came with one magazine, says Colt 45 Auto. The round top follower, the spring is weak. Not a big fan of this magazine so far, but I might throw a new spring in there and see how she behaves. But as of right now, the spring is very weak for sure. And then finally, the finish is a Parkerized finish. And I want to be really specific. This is a Parkerized finish that I love. So in the early 2000s, Springfield, Colt, everybody was doing this really rugged, durable, kind of gritty, rough Parkerizing. Is it the prettiest? Well, no, but that's not the point. The point is durability, corrosion resistance. And so I love this finish. I'm really happy with this finish. This stuff looks great. It's got a little bit of shine to it. You can see the steel under there, but the Parkerizing is still very much intact. So this is an old school finish that I actually really like. This is a very functional finish. In typical used gun fashion, I can see DNA, somebody's human debris in the grip screws and slide serrations. Nobody cleans their guns before they sell them because they're disgusting. So we're going to have to clean this up, which is my least favorite part of buying a used pistol. So let's crack it open and see the internals. I have not done this yet, so you guys are seeing it for the first time as well. Spring cap is nice. I like the old school spring caps because the checkering is real. Whereas a lot of this is a criticism I have of T-Sauce, where the checkering is just there for pretend. It's not sharp at all, and it looks kind of like a cartoon interpretation of itself. The recoil spring feels okay. Hard to tell with the naked eye, but this one, the coils look a little closer together, and it looks overall a little bit shorter. So we're probably going to change this as per the usual arrangement. Here's our barrel, which has definitely had a crown job, and it's a good one. Looks pretty good to me. We've got rifling. Isn't that neat? Looks good. It says Colt 45 Auto on top, so we know it's a Colt barrel. Okay, digging into the slide, we have the firing pin. Very dirty. This was a shooter. Back of the firing pin, it looks a little bit flattened. Again, Everything's telling me it's a shooter. No problem. I mean, look, even if the guy that owned this before put 10,000 rounds through it, okay. I mean, if it's a good 1911, that means nothing to me, honestly. Okay, so there's our extractor, which I went ahead and profiled the bottom corner and smoothed that out very little. It's an extremely minimalist job I just did there, but needed to be done. It was very sharp. I will also say about this extractor, the wear does not match the rest of the gun at all. This looks like a newer extractor. It does not look worn with the rest of the pistol. So again, no big deal, not complaining, totally okay with it. All right, so the slide itself, front sight is locked in, feels good. The stake looks wide, so we're good there. Rough machining underneath the hood, typical of this era. So let's clean this up and keep going. Looking at the frame, let's just inspect it real quick. Well, would you look at that? No frame battering. Huh. Isn't that just neat? All right, so getting the grips off. This is very common with wood grips, and these grips have very clearly not been taken off for a very long time. You've got some very typical wear, a little bit of rusting around the footprint where the grips lived. Again, typical, no big deal. Oh boy. Yeah. This has been carried a lot. That is a lot of rust. That is years of dry sweat. The good news about that is that when I get this gun cleaned up, it's going to feel way different. Because right now, it's gross, man. This is really disgusting. I mean, look at this. Look at this leaf spring. It is rusted and pitted. We are definitely replacing this. This is what it looks like when you don't clean your guns. Very bad. So the pin that holds the sear and disconnector in is seized. And it's not just bone dry. It's like somebody lubricated this with their sweat and then put it away inside of a Ziploc bag in their front yard in Miami. This mainspring housing is plastic. So there's that. So we're definitely going to be getting rid of that. And the trigger shoe, also plastic. Now, I'm actually going to leave this because it's a very solid one, and I couldn't tell. I'm going to be really honest with you. The only reason I can tell is I can see the markings on the back to tell that it's plastic, and it feels really good. So for now, we're going to leave that. No biggie. Mainspring housing's got to go. This thing is trashed. As for all these disgusting, dirty parts, we're just going to hose them in CLP. So as you guys can see, I'm literally having to, card off these parts with a steel brush. This just guck, whatever is on there, is so baked in, man. This is really gross. Okay, so 1 hour later, that was awful. Man, clean your guns, please, for the love of God, especially when you're going to sell them. That was really gross. Genuinely, the person who sold me this should be embarrassed. That was gross. The gun has not been oiled probably in more than a decade, but it's been carried a lot. I just cleaned out like a whole dissolved person out of the inside of this pistol. That was gross. I went and washed my hands in mineral spirits, and I didn't have any lava, so that will have to do for now. All right, so the gun's clean. Let's talk through it. Let's see what we got here. So frame looks pretty standard. Everything looks good. Again, we've got the plastic trigger shoe, but, fine. So right now, the only part that I'm a little concerned about is the sear. So the sear is rounded off where the hammer hooks go. So this guy has either been dry fired or shot a good bit. It's still passing tests, but I am going to see if I can just clean up that sear edge a little bit and get it a little bit healthier because it's just more rounded off than I like. So we'll do that. Disconnector looks okay. Hammer hooks look okay. So the new stuff going in, we have a Ed Brown flat mainspring housing that will go in because the plastic one is trash. I have a Colt leaf spring. So we'll throw this one in there because the other one was literally pitted and like in very bad shape. We're going to do a 16-pound spring, and you can see just holding these up next to each other. You can see the difference there. The stock one is very short. So we're going to throw a new one in there, get rid of this guy. Yes, in the trash it goes. We're not hoarding springs. And, of course, our standard O-rings. So let's start putting this guy back together. That took a while. This gun was extremely poorly kept, not lubricated. I'm not sure if it was shot a lot, but boy, it was carried a lot because there was so much just dry, rusted gunk. And it's not oil that gunked up. It is very clearly just human debris. It was disgusting. Now the gun is very nicely cleaned and put back together. So let me walk through what I did, and then I'll give you some initial impressions on this examination. So first thing, obviously cleaned it, got everything in good shape. I did do a little adjustment on the bottom left corner of the extractor because this extractor seems to be tuned well, but the bottom left corner was very sharp, so I went ahead and very minimal profiling there, and it seems to be feeding snap caps and dummy cartridges just fine. I replaced the recoil spring with a proper 16-pound spring. New Colt leaf spring that I had laying around, so why not stick with that? And then we also put in a Ed Brown flat mainspring housing, which dropped right in, no problem at all. And then finally, I did reprofile the sear with the relief cut. I just wanted to sharpen up the edges of that sear because they had rounded just a little bit, and I had absolutely plenty of sear surface left to play with and still do. So clean that up, and now the gun feels fresh, sharp, crisp. It's feeling really, really nice, actually. So let's talk through the general setup here. Basically, you've got a old school Parkerized Colt 1911. This thing is it's a working gun, man. There's nothing pretty about it. It is a go-getter, for sure. Solidly built, besides the parts. I'd say is a good summary of the overall setup here. Barrel, frame, slide, pretty solid, but you do have a plastic trigger shoe here, which I'm going to leave because I actually like this long trigger, so we're going to leave that. It had a plastic mainspring housing, garbage, in the trash, it goes. And then pretty much everything else besides maybe the hammer is a cast or MIM part. You can just tell. I mean, it's very obvious. Even on the magazine release here, you can see the cast line. So, substandard parts, but, you know, that's kind of how it goes when these pistols were made, and even up to now. That's the name of the game. So, now with the sear being freshly cleaned up and everything else kind of being nice, I'm happy with it. I don't have any desire to change anything else right now. The gun feels really good. As I did mention, the barrel definitely has had a crown job. So I don't know if that's because the gun got dropped, and that's a good way to clean up a dropped pistol, or maybe they just did that because they wanted to, right? No matter what, this is an upgrade. It does protect your rifling in the case of being dropped, so it's a solid move there. And it seems to be well done. We're going to find out when we shoot it, but so far seems to be well done. And then, of course, as we usually do, put in some O-rings on the grips. I'm going to keep these grips. They actually fit the gun. They're nice looking. I don't have a problem with these at all. So there we go. We have a proper Colt pistol. Feel is really good. The gun has a very good barrel lockup. Very good. I mean, nothing to complain about there. No movement at all. Thumb safety, really good. I don't want to change a thing about that. Grip safety is now nice and tight with the new leaf spring and tuned properly. Trigger. Here's where the rubber meets the road. Take up, we get past our Series 80 system, which is very short. Don't even know it's there, to be honest. Pull, 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 and we have no creep at all. Very crisp trigger. So that sear adjustment went a long way. It's no longer sort of a round hump of a brake. It's a very crisp let off. That's right where we want it. Reset. Positive. Between the sear spring and the new freshened up edge on that sear, we have a nice positive sear, and all the safety tests check out. The extractor job, so I do have a magazine in here, and by the way, I did replace the magazine spring with a plus 10% power mag spring. This mag is weird. Like, the holes are too far apart. It's like if Uma Thurman's face was a magazine. And they're also just like, look at this. Like, they're just strange and offset. This looks like a Colt ripoff. I mean, it says Colt 45 Auto on the bottom, but nothing else about this seems like a Colt. It's got a round top follower. The follower feels like it's made of pot metal. So anyway, I threw a new spring in it. We'll see if it works. It feels rough. I don't like the feel of this magazine one bit. So I've got my test cartridge and a snap cap in here. So, and then we're going to eject that cartridge. Nice. Comes out. Good feed. Pops out. Now, while we're here, I want to talk about something. There's one thing on here that's you don't see as much on pistols anymore. Basically, you only ever have two types of ejection ports anymore. You either have your legit old school standard ejection port. This is my Colt World War I reproduction, or you have a lowered and flared ejection port, something like Armscore, where basically they lower the ejection port below the trigger guard. It's so massive you could fly a Boeing 747 underneath the barrel with the gun assembled. It's ridiculous and ugly and dumb. This has a slightly lowered ejection port, but here's a really tasteful move. So if you can see this little cutout right here in the slide. And I love this. I've seen a couple pistols in the past like this. So what this is they've lowered the ejection port just a little, but they don't flare it. They do this little cutout right here. And what that's for is basically the original ejection ports were meant to eject what? Brass, not whole cartridges, right? So what can happen sometimes is you go to eject a live cartridge to unload the pistol, and it gets hung in your ejection port. Totally normal, no big deal. So instead of doing something dramatic and goofy and ugly, you have this little bitty cutout there. And what that allows you to do is to let a full cartridge exit the pistol without getting hung up. Tasteful, nice. I wish more companies would do that instead of doing the stupid flare back here and super lowered. I despise all of that. So besides having some crappy parts and being extremely dirty, my initial impressions of this are this is a proper, just sturdy, purpose-built Colt. Now, we're really going to see how it does when I actually shoot it, but everything is indicating to me right now that this is a solid hitter, and I'm really looking forward to putting it to use. So yeah, I think this is a solid feeling gun. It's set up just the way I like it. Type E hammer, commercial thumb safety, long old school sort of pre-war style trigger. And let me just illustrate that to you real quick. So if you look at some more modern triggers, you can look at the profile of this. This is a medium trigger. It's more of an even half moon shape, right? But then you look at this one, and you can see it's a much more, it's the thumb, or the finger cutout is much deeper, and the shoe itself tapers down. Now let's look at the pre-war. Very similar, right? You have a tapering down shoe and a much deeper cutout for your finger. So this is much more of an old school style trigger. And again, the more modern ones have a flatter face. It's not as caved in there and curved. And I just find these old school triggers fit my finger really, really well. Yeah, man, purpose-built gun, feels sturdy, everything's feeling really good, set up solid. I look forward to getting this to the range, and many more videos to come on this one. Going to be comparing it to several other Colts. We got a lot to talk about with the good old Colt Manufacturing Company. All right, guys, there it is. That's the examination of the Colt 1991. Look forward to part 2, where we'll take it out to the range. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.